I would love for you to sort of give me an education on the political philosophy of anarchy.
All right.
Because it's pretty clear to me that the current form of government we're operating under is not doing a very good job at dealing with the issues that I care a lot about, namely the social issues of men and boys and the balance of power, or the imbalance of power, between men and women. So it's not likely that I'm going to end this conversation as a card-carrying anarchist. And of course, I know that anarchists don't carry cards. But I do want to get some seeds of wisdom from you about what anarchy really is about.
We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here's your host, Michael Storm.
Here we go, Toward Anarchy. Thank you so much for listening in. I'm Michael Storm. It's Saturday night. It's prime time. We're worldwide on the Republic Broadcasting Network. You can find me on Facebook, X, Instagram, and now on TikTok, finally, when they're about ready to shut it down. And wherever you find me, please just take a quick second to hit that like button. And if you're so inclined to do so, a follow or a subscribe as well. That'd be fantastic. But I'll take the like. Just a quick second. That's all it takes. Click done, and we're on with the rest of this thing. Follow along at towardanarchy.com as always. I put a lot of work in there each week. I go to that website each week, and I build a page, and I go out and I find a collection of links, some things of interest, some news, some stories, some stuff to learn from, some stuff to be entertained by, and I just throw it on a page up there, and it's there every single week. It's always there. It's just kind of a great little record of things. It's not just me talking about these things. There's some links, some things to support them outside of my own little world, from within my own little world at towardanarchy.com. Look for 2507. That's the show today. And if you get there, you will find real quick that it's going to be a special episode today of Ask the Anarchist. But we'll wait and do that with the guest. The guest is not an anarchist. I'm the anarchist. And while I did bring him on the show to talk about his things, the work that he's done for the last 40 years or so, with helping reach out to men and give them a voice in places that they haven't been heard before, believe it or not. But he flipped the script on me right away when we started talking, and so it turns into an ask. He's asking me all sorts of questions, ask me very pointed questions about relationships and about potential government. Can you have a state with inside an anarchist society, that sort of thing. Children, raising children, philosophy on raising children, that sort of thing. So really some fantastic questions answered here in the second hour, and totally a surprise to me. I had no idea that was Jack's intention. Jack Kammer is that name. That's just crazy. It's got to be a fake name, right? I didn't ask him about it. It has to be a nom de guerre, nom de plume, maybe both, and right, because it's too close to Jack Hammer, right? You just want to say Jack Hammer. It's Jack Kammer, Kammer, and he does the male-friendly media. It was a radio show, some things that he's done over the years, and it's all culminated in a website there. He has male-friendly media. We didn't talk much about it, but I provided you a link there, and we'll talk to Jack here at the top of the hour, or more to the point, Jack will talk to me at the top of the hour, and you will be able to hear answers to some questions that I may not have answered before, maybe not as clearly or as directly, because they weren't as pointed. That's the thing about Jack being there and deciding that that's what he wanted to do, was to talk to me, and as opposed to me getting just sort of random questions from people that I decide to go ahead and answer. So yeah, fantastic. Coming up at the top of the hour, we will definitely get there, so stick around for that. In the meantime, there's plenty. Again, like I said, towardanarchy.com, 2507 is the show, but before you get there, support the network, support republicbroadcasting.org is the... And before we get there, support Republic Broadcasting, support the network. Go to republicbroadcasting.org, and right over there on the left-hand side, you can click that donate button. It's so easy. It's just a couple of clicks. It's just that little yellow button right over there. It's right near the top on the left-hand side. You just click that bad boy. A couple of clicks later, you're supporting the network by financially supporting the network. You support us every day and all over, with just listening and chiming in and sharing the links and doing everything that you do, supporting the shows in the way that you do. This is just that one step further that makes sure that RBN sticks around. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to like this show, you don't have to like me, but I'm just one small part of the network. There are so many other people, so many other voices, so many other things to be said and to be talked about across the network than just myself, and it's all thanks to you and your direct support. Click that donate button, and a couple of clicks away from a one-time donation, a yearly donation, a monthly donation, whatever it is you want to do. You set the terms on it. Otherwise, give us a call, 800-724-2719, extension 3, I believe, and you can ask to speak to somebody, and they can give you other options, or you can just send a check or a money order to RBN, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. Please support the network. I do not ask you selfishly, because the fact is, I don't need the network to do this. I do the network because I love the network. I'm a fan of the network. I'm a fan of the people across the network. I'm a fan of the mission of the network. Always have been. Years ago when I was here, now that I'm back again, and it seems years it's been already that I'm back again, and proud to be here, happy to be a part of it. But the fact is I don't need it, not in this day and age. So it's a blessing to have that network, that companionship, those people behind us supporting us and bringing those voices, and all because of you. That's the truth of it. I'm a beneficiary of the network as much as anybody else is, in terms of what it does for us in reaching people and having the conversation. Also, visit shoprbn.com. That's the win-win. Of course, you support the advertisers buy advertisements on the network, and we can pay the bills and keep the lights on and keep the internet service on for another day or two. It feels like that sometimes, doesn't it? Just like, maybe just enough to cover for now. just enough to make it through. I'd be happy if I just found a $10 bill and a card from grandma somewhere. Anything like that, just to get me through. It really used to be like that when I smoked. When I smoked cigarettes, I remember that being like, oh man, I don't have any cash. I can't justify spending what little bit I do have. It has to go in the gas tank. Oh, look, a card from grandma, $10. Oh my gosh. What are we going to do? Well, there's so much. There's so much ahead of us, and so much behind us in terms of history, and I don't know where it's all going, but I see this great, I don't know, maybe a convergence of ideas, or maybe it's a clash of ideas that's coming. I don't know which it will be. I imagine it'll be a little bit of both, I suppose, and we get to have that conversation here across the network. We get to talk about the potential. All of this is going on with the president, with Trump doing what he's doing with his pen, just signing away furiously, making changes, and Doge in there finding corruption, and the whole U.S. aid thing, and there's just so much going on, and it all seems kind of positive. It all seems a little bit like it seems like something's being done, right? It seems like something's happening, and I've said I would be open and honest and watch what happened, and I wouldn't try to assume or make any predictions about what would happen, and just let it play out, other than I imagine that ultimately in the end nothing's going to change. So Trump is reducing government, right? That's kind of what's going on, but at the same time, it's not really. There's some interesting fraud that's being dealt with, particularly with the U.S. aid thing. There's definitely some fraud, some things going on in there that are being dealt with. But are we really reducing the size of government? Are we replacing bureaucrats with bureaucrats? Are we just replacing the ones that are no longer in favor with people who are in favor until they fall out of favor, in departments and programs and such? So far, it seems like there's some weird attempt to go in the right direction, but I think when you scratch the surface of it all, I think you see pretty quickly that it's not as bright and shiny as they would have you believe. What I see in the attempt to reduce is that attempt to reduce the government, but it seems like it's a huge authoritarian play, first of all. A lot of it is just a response to the previous authoritarian regimes, and it's a continued ratcheting up. Because the biggest question in all of this is, how much is it going to make a difference for Americans? When are we going to see the actual reductions in government? The reductions in government that mean that government no longer needs to take as much money as it does from us. It shouldn't be taking any money from us. Would it be great to see the income tax disappear? It'd be absolutely fantastic to see federal income tax disappear. However, the federal government is not going to disappear, so how is the federal government going to be funded? Well, it's going to raise state taxes, it's going to raise taxes on states, or it's going to find ways to raise taxes on commerce between the states, or it'll raise taxes. They've talked about tariffs and trying to raise that's just taxes on people that are selling products into America, or people that want to sell products outside of America to foreign entities that are under some tariff. So we have the same silly battles going on over and over again, that nothing is really being done. Nothing has changed yet at this point. So we're still just sort of waiting to see. And I don't know what the answer will be, but I do know that what I see so far is not what's going to change America, what's going to change the government, what's going to turn us back to a renaissance of individualism, whatever utopian vision you happen to have for America, whatever it is, it's not going to happen this way. That's me speaking to the Republicans as well, that are happy about what is going on, and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. now part of the show, and just all these people that on the surface, they seem like they're pretty decent people with the right ideas about the place of government in our lives, based on some of their own conversations and appearances. But what we have, though, is those people talking about those things, doing those things in a rush up to get elected in one way or another, or selected in one way or another, depending on whether they were running for president or not. And both of the people I just mentioned have, so they're out there trying to get votes, they're out there trying to get dollars, they're trying to be elected or to get selected for a cabinet position or whatever. And they're saying what they want to say. What's going to prove it is when they hit the ground and all of the hype about it is over with, and they actually have to do the work. And then that's when they run into government bureaucracy and laws and Congress and all of the things that are going to be barriers that existed prior to these people being selected. The last person that was supposed to make America great, even if they didn't use those terms, make America healthy, even if they didn't use those terms, make America richer, even if they didn't use those terms, whatever it is that they claim they were going to do, that those campaign promises, none of it is borne out. None of it in any larger sense of the word is borne out. If by those accomplishments you mean the things that have grown government and created more socialism and redistributed more wealth, yes, those things are perfectly healthy. I've said before to you, dear listener, I've come here to tell you, to bring you a message about how America is slipping toward anarchy. And no, it's not. It's not slipping toward anarchy. If anything, it's slipping in the opposite direction of anarchy. It's going towards a more controlled system of socialism and authoritarianism, and we are the unwitting victims of it. Most of us, the 70 some odd percent of us or whatever that didn't vote, or 69 or 70% of us, whatever it is, it's somewhere around there. They didn't even vote. They didn't even participate and or voted for the guy that didn't win, that sort of, whatever the actual numbers are. You can't even really believe it. Depending on where you look, you see some number. You look in another place, you see a number. Supposedly it's an official number. Somebody else says it's a different number. That no, there's no way it could have been that number because based on this and this statistic and these numbers over here, and you don't know who to believe. All I know is that the majority of people didn't vote for the people who are in charge. Period. Whether they voted or not, they didn't vote for the people who are in charge. So most of us, it's just at their whim that we even exist once they've taken power, and unfortunately it seems like that's what's going to happen, that they will wipe us out. I don't know how many times here just in the last a couple of days I've seen some sort of reference to getting rid of the Republicans, ultimately in harming people, and it's from the left. They're saying this is from our caring, wonderful left. We have to get rid of the Republicans. They have to be gone. The Republican Party has to be gone. You take away that word, Republican, take away Republicans, and replace it with white man, black man, woman, child, whatever, and make them into real people. And then what are we talking about? What are you talking about? Get to what you're talking about on the left. You're talking about murdering people. They want to see Elon Musk dead. They want to see him dead like that CEO, the United Healthcare CEO. They want to see Elon dead. And it's not just one of them. It's not just a fringe. It's not just the comment through a whole bunch of other comments that's the one crazy guy. It's all of those people commenting, saying how much they hate people on the right, how much they hate the Republicans, how much they want to see Elon dead, how much they want to see RFK eaten by his brain worm or whatever. And they it's just nasty, horrible, disgusting people, and talk that they and that's what I'm telling you that we have to look out for. That's what's coming. It's coming. It's in the future. I don't know how much further down the road it is. I don't know how you stave it off. I don't know how you stave it off politically without turning to violence. I don't know which one will turn to violence first that really finally tips the scale, but it will happen. I don't know if it'll happen in my time. I think it probably will more and more at this point because the escalation is so much faster than it was the previous 20 years. The last 20 years has gone so much faster in terms of controls and manipulations, and the government and the elitists setting themselves up in a position to be protected after they wage war across us in all these different ways, across the people, through the people, in all these different ways. From their drug wars to their wars on homelessness to their wars on the economy to their wars overseas, it's just war after war after war, because the war, well, as we all know, is the health of the state. That's what's coming in our future, and I urge the Democrats, the crazy left, to just stop. I really do, because there's a point where you're going to not be able to come back from what you do. And at this point, reducing government, government being reduced and corruption being weeded out is something everybody should cheer. It should not be a division point unless politically you're wrapped up in a party and an ideology instead of the truth, instead of facts, instead of what's right. And those are the guys that usually lose. They usually start things. They start stuff they can't handle. They start some things they can't stop, and somebody else has to put them to a stop. And it doesn't matter what they claim the reasons are, why, on any side. It's just what happens. So I urge you, if you're on the left, if you're one of these people that hates so much, and it's not just this fringe thing, it's all of the left. The left is insane at this point and cannot be trusted. And it's been that way for a while. This is nothing new for me to talk about. And I'm in no way defending the right. I'm sitting here questioning the right, as always, and hoping that they do what's right, that they take the opportunity to reduce the size of government, to give the people back what is theirs, to make America a better place using what limited powers they really are supposed to have to be able to do so. It would be a neat thing to see government behave as if it were truly limited and truly something by, of, and for the people, as opposed to just the whim of whatever party is in charge and how whatever rich people decide to back them at that point, because that's pretty much all we have right now. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to continue. I do know that I read. It's just been fantastic. It's been so wonderful reading these books each week and bringing you information on them for all the right reasons. It's getting me reading more. It's getting me reading things that I wouldn't otherwise read, because I'm not reading them necessarily for myself so much as in to just suggest that these things are out there for people to read. These comic books, these wonderful things that myself and my partners at Amazing Fantasies, the comic book shop that we own here in Topeka, Kansas, do every single day, trying to help people find their collectibles, find their comic books, read the stories they want, know what's out there without having to pick up every single thing themselves, especially at $4 or $5 a pop. It's a wonderful thing, and I was able to read another really great book this week, and another book that I might not necessarily have read because of the fact that I'm trying to expand and trying to reach out and find different categories to read on. Pinupocalypse. It's Andrew Tarasov with a little help from Brendan Jones. It's on the Massive label, and it's in Pinupolis, California. It's Foxy's 18th birthday. It's prom. She's looking for a new dress. She has this dress in mind. She wakes up on her 18th birthday in the morning, and it's all beautiful. Everything's perfect. It's a perfect society. Pinup. Pinupocalypse. It's in the name, Pinup and apocalypse. It's the two words joined together, and so it tells you something about the art, and it tells you something about the people and sort of the idyllic space that you're looking at, and the place that they live, and the time period. It's something like the 50s. It's sort of an idyllic 50s time period. Certainly the cars and the clothing match, and the conversation is very much tongue-in-cheek about how women don't work because they couldn't, because they're women. I mean, it's the sort of thing that you would expect from the 50s. But there are also some other great hints, because like any really well-written story that I've read in my lifetime, there are references to the time period, whether they're fictional or non-fictional stories. There are references to the time period and the place, and one of my favorite references is music. And in the first issue here, there's multiple instances of music playing in the background, or the characters singing some song. Foxy is singing Judy Garland, "Get Happy," the song "Get Happy" it was from the soundtrack to Summer Stock, so it's like 1950, right? And so that helps set the era, and then there's another point later on. Foxy's off to the mall to look at this dress. She has just not quite enough money to buy it. That's going to be the least of her problems. She's not quite enough money to buy it yet, and she goes to try it on again. But on her way there, she almost gets in an accident because there's something weird going on the side of the road. She has no idea what it is, and I can't tell you, I can't describe it for you because it'll ruin you seeing it and thinking of it for yourself. And that's one of the beautiful things about this book, and I love it. It's just one of my favorite books so far this year. And being a zombie story, I would never even read it, but necessarily. But it's written so well. There's so much going on that you're constantly asking yourself, am I getting hints and foreshadowing, or are these just teases? Are they just playing with me? Is this a dead end because you're expecting something weird to happen right here? But she almost gets in an accident with some other high school chums. Well, they know each other. And she goes off to the mall and she tries on her dress. And while she's trying on the dress, something happens. We're not exactly sure. We don't know if the Russians have attacked or if it's aliens that have attacked or something like that. But there's a big explosion and there's sort of undead zombie types wandering around. There's some kind of bomb or weird device or something that sort of landed out in the middle of the road outside the mall there, and it's jutting out this gas. So we don't know what this is. It's not harming her. We see other people that are harmed, but there's a massive scene there. It's just brilliantly laid out so far at the beginning, or to start off this story in this first issue. And as Foxy's coming out of there, she's attacked by one of these other zombie things that's running around here now, and Roxy appears. And Roxy is a school chum. She's the bad girl character. Foxy's the good girl character, and Roxy's the bad girl character, leather jacket wearing, smokes cigarettes, and probably gun-toting. She certainly has one there at the end. Well, I'm excited. I'm really excited. Pinupocalypse is in your local comic book shop now. Ask about it. Get them to pick it up for you. I think you'll really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it. So. It has been just fantastic being able to, there are so many people now that are listening to those little reviews that I'm doing on the books that I'm reading, that have no idea that there's an entire weekly show where we do our thing, that there's a network, that there's all of this behind this, and they'll only just begin to find it out, and it's just another way. It's another way to talk to people in the language that they understand, and I'm just so thrilled to be able to continue to do it, and to have your support for it. It's been neat to get some of the feedback about it, and how people are just really enjoying it, and I've had a couple of comments specifically from people who are not comic book readers and wouldn't necessarily want to listen to me talk for 4 or 5 minutes about a comic book. But I guess it's no worse than most of the things that I talk about, right? And so if you can hold on for a couple of minutes, that'd be the worst. We'll be right back to something, quote, I'm doing the Nixon quote, important. We'll touch on that. We'll get back to that. That's the worst case. No, but I've had some feedback from people who specifically mentioned that they weren't comic book readers, but that they really enjoyed that I was doing that, because they can tell, they know that it's important. That was the gist of it, is they get that it's important that people read, and it's important that people read whatever interests them. And comic books have such a grand history and such a grand tradition with them of being inclusive. If you're one of of these people that's out there looking for diversity and equity and inclusion, comic books are there. They always have been. They were way ahead of the game when it came to it. They were always subversive and talking about subjects and people and ideas that weren't in the mainstream. And it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic, the feedback on it, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do it really literally for years, in fact. Go back there to towardanarchy.com. Of course, there's a link there for the Massive Comics, the link for Massive Comics. They're publishing the page for Pinupocalypse, and you can look at that. And if you're ever interested in any one of these books or any of these collectibles, if you're ever looking for something, you're ever looking to sell something, you're looking for advice on your collectibles or your comic books, hit me up. It's amazingfantasies.com is the website, and it's under construction right now, but there's contact information there. Or if you're in Topeka, stop by the shop and say hi. Let me know that you heard about the shop on the show. And that's a neat thing. It's happened multiple times over the last couple of years. It's been a really neat thing to do. Okay, so at towardanarchy.com, there's plenty of stuff under there under the Anarchist audit. And we are going to pick through a couple of those and hit on a few of those. But I wanted to read you the quote because this is something that is true. It's more true than when he said it. I don't know, it's been a long time ago that he said it, but it's even more true now. I never thought I'd live to see the day when the right wing would become the cool ones, giving the middle finger to the establishment, and the left wing becoming the sniveling, self-righteous, twatty ones going around shaming everyone. John Lyndon, Johnny Rotten, he said that. He said it a long time ago. Not like decades and decades ago, but it was quite a while ago. It wasn't just a recent thing. This is something that's been building up for a long time. This division between the left and the right, and people on the right with half a brain, or left and on the left with half a brain in their head, realizing that the rest of the left is completely crazy, and unfortunately bailing to places like the Libertarian Party and making them worse than they were before. But that's it. I am not a right-wing person. I am okay. Like I had some left-wing person tell me not too long ago. This is in person. This wasn't even one of these exchanges across the internet. This was in person to my face. That guy that's really on the left that you don't like? I'm further left of that guy. That's what the guy said to me. And, well, I am on the right of that, if you will, understanding that I see this as a straight line, that it's not a matrix like they try to provide you. Even the Libertarian Party gives you their 3 questions, and they try to plot your political spot on their little map. But that's not what that little map was about. That wasn't really the point of it. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's so much so that it isn't that they turn the map on its side. So now it's a diamond instead of a square. And doesn't quite represent exactly the same thing, that toward anarchy that they were trying to reach for at the point that they created it. I'm not a right-wing person. I'm not a left-wing person. And if we're looking from left to right, all the way far on the left, if you will, the furthest left on any scale or point or region or graph that you could come up with is slavery. Total slavery, where we as people are dominated by other people. Then all the way over on the right is anarchy. That's total freedom. That's absolutely doing whatever you want without anybody telling you can or can't. It's not about not receiving consequences for negative actions or stupid actions. It's just that there's no authority that claims no other man or person or a couple of people or group of twatty little self-righteous telling us what we can and can't do. That's all the way over there on the right. That's where I'm at. And so you could say I'm further right than the furthest right, the furthest person on the right, the furthest conservative on the right that you hate. It is all the way over there. I'm further right than them. I'm way past them because I'm living over there in freedom, not in limited right-wing Republican, you'll do what we say, not what the other guys say, socialism, government, whatever euphemisms you can come up with to make it sound a little better. Leaders, that's always a great one. Elite, there's another one that's always fantastic that just gets a certain picture painted in your brain when you start talking about them. A picture that's not true, but it's a picture nonetheless that so many people are ready to accept, and it's really sort of scary and disgusting when you think about what I was talking about earlier and where we're headed and how this just continues to ratchet up and it doesn't seem to really get any better, and why it's so important ultimately that we have to have these conversations, that we can't be silenced at this point, that we have to be as loud as we've ever been, and we have to be more tolerant than we've ever been, because it's going to be really easy to just hurt these people. I want to smack a bitch anytime they stick their face into my face, regardless of why they've done it. You just need to stop. I don't care. I can't possibly have done anything to you that I need you to tell me how to live my life, let alone do it up nice and close where I gotta smell your rotten ass breath. This is the world that we live in with these leftists and political people in general. I'm trying real hard right here to be nice to the right and give you the benefit of the doubt, but you haven't proven yourself yet. You've got some things going for you right now, but there's a history. If you don't believe me, just look back. In case you missed that when I said it months ago, about moving backward, that we're not moving forward. I know a lot of Americans right now, patriots, right-wing people, just cheering about how we are moving forward and we're getting beyond the past 4 years. We're getting so beyond the past 4 years that we went to the people who architected the previous 4 years. We're back to them. Nothing improved, nothing got any better. And so we came full circle right back to the same people who screwed it up before, that you threw out of office last time, that nobody was happy with. So where did we get ourselves? Nowhere. We have ourselves nowhere. And so I'm waiting, right wing. I'm giving you the opportunity to show yourself to be the true conservatives, and at the same time, the same people who remember that conservative means less government and less government interfering in your life, in our lives, all of our lives. That includes everyone. Everyone. That's the brown people too. That's right. Yes, the brown people too. Yes, the ones that you call illegals that come across the border looking for work. Yes, that's correct. They're people too. And they're the same people mentioned in your precious founding documents. The people. They're all people. There were no citizens. There were no Americans. Stop lying to yourself and pretending that your little paper-protected rights are only for you and that they only exist because your America and your government exists to protect them. The hell it is. They've done nothing but abuse them. They've done nothing but find every single way they can to take them away from you. No. It's obvious that those were not for Americans. And that was the point of them not for Americans, that they were for people, that they were all for all people, that government didn't get to say in any of those things, that they didn't get a say in our defense, in the way that we managed our lives, in the papers that we keep, in the company that we keep, in everything, unless and until we violated somebody else. And that's if those people decided that they wanted to involve you voluntarily, you government people, and your so-called solutions and your justice. That's if they wanted to involve you and not just take care of justice for themselves and make it a mutual combat sort of thing, a tit for tat. It's one thing for tit for tat to happen amongst people where it gets resolved. It's another thing to institutionalize it where it never gets resolved. Do you understand the difference in how people can resolve their own problems on the street and it be bad, it be violent, it be not the way it should be handled in a polite society, and it still be better than putting a gang of thugs and criminals and thieves and murderers in charge of the rest of us and telling them that they have ultimate power over the rest of us and giving them carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want to the rest of us? Do you get what I'm saying here? That that what you've done is you've taken every single problem of every single person that wants to make it everyone else's problem, and you've made it everyone else's problem by politicizing it, by giving power over to the government, by telling them that they can do whatever they want to the rest of us, right up to and including death, murder us, remove us from the face of the earth. And all they have to do is decree it. That's it. They don't have to do anything anymore. All the president has to do is just sign off on a piece of paper. Isn't that there's not even any checks and balances anymore on this stuff. And to hell with him being right or wrong when people are dead, when people have lost what has belonged to them, when they've been thrown out of their country and forced to go somewhere else. I'm talking about the Middle East or whatever place he thinks he has some authority. This president or the next one or the last one or anyone, do you just not see? Can you just not see that there's no winning through this system unless it's slash and burn? And I just don't see it. It's just we're not on the... And when I say slash and burn, I don't mean us. I don't mean us necessarily rising up against it. If you want to take up arms against the government, go ahead. I don't care. I think you're crazy. I think it's foolish. I don't think that you're going to solve anything. Yes, you may make yourself feel better, and you may make yourself feel like a man and be a martyr, and you may even resolve your particular problem. But that's justice for you. It doesn't do anything for the rest of us. It's the same story with letting, everybody should be cheering, right? I'm supposed to be happy that Ross Ulbricht is out of prison, right? I'm supposed to be happy because he was put there for, nefarious reasons by nefarious people. Great, but this is what I'm telling you is happening right now, and everybody's dancing and cheering. It's all great. It's all wonderful, but nothing's really changing. You mark my words, nothing is really changing until the government slashes and burns itself, until the government reduces itself to nothing, until the government gives back the money that it's taking and no longer robs the citizens. It's just still somewhere along that line, closer to the left than the right. That's you conservatives too. So be happy with yourselves, because I'm way over here on the right, totally free, totally outside your bonds, past all of these political jokes and games. Literally, gone right past them, all the way over to the other side. Come on over here and join me. It's great. I'm not trying to tell anybody else what to do, and I'm not trying to let anybody else tell me what to do. And if you knew me, you'd know that's exactly the way it is. Here, let me give you a little, just an anecdote. Last weekend, so we've been dealing with the whole father-in-law being in the rehab center and having fallen and hurt himself. I told you about it last week, and it's still going on, and it's been going on, and so a lot of running. And a lot of being absent from the house, coming and going from the house, children, not little children, alone at the house, while we're running around doing things, visiting, making sure he's fixed, do whatever it is that he needs, stuff from the store, or just there keeping in company, because I told you how he's kind of losing his mind a little bit, and that it was about the fact that they keep moving him around and moving him around, room to room to room to room. Well, he's settled now, and he's been settled for a few days. And he was still having problems waking up confused and delirious, and they weren't paying attention to why, and they didn't say anything to us, and we thought that he was, there's going to be a couple of days of adjustment or whatever, but that should go away. Well, when it's not going away, then we have a problem. So we wander in there yesterday, and we're just outside the door. We're waiting because the nurse is helping Grandpa go. And so we're just waiting outside, and we hear her talking to him, and she's talking about his CPAP machine. And she's basically telling him how they had been monitoring his CPAP machine. We had noticed that they had put a monitor in there. It's one of these finger monitors. It just snaps onto your finger, and it just clips onto your finger, and it reads your pulse, and it reads your oxygen level, and I don't know what all else. Temperature, whatever, all these different things. I noticed a machine sitting there before we left for the night before, but then we're in there last night, and we come up there, and we're just standing outside the door. Nobody knows we're there, and we hear the nurse talking to him about the CPAP machine and about how they're saying that it's not working and that he's not getting oxygen at night, and that they had put the sensor on him, and that his oxygen had dropped down to 83% overnight, and that's bad. That's really bad, especially when you're talking about somebody who has COPD. It's one thing to be out of breath. It's another thing to be out of breath and not actually able to get more breath. So the 83, I mean, that's bad. That's really, really bad. And with his breathing treatments, we've had him here 95, 97. It's been great. We've never had any problems with his CPAP machine. His CPAP machine works fine. It's regularly checked out by the VA. It actually used to be connected directly to the VA by a wireless system, and they would check all the readings and everything every night and make sure that he was getting the oxygen he would need. Well, that was during a period where he wasn't using it properly, and so his oxygen was needing to be monitored because he wouldn't put the damn thing on, ultimately, is what would happen. And so he wasn't getting the oxygen that he would need. And we finally got that taken care of, and everything's been fine since then. We put him on a routine. He has every night we put the oxygen on him, my wife does. Puts a mask on him, make sure that he's set and ready to go for bed, and that none of that is getting overlooked, nothing's being missed, and so we go in there, and they don't even tell us. We kind of wander in just like we normally would, don't really say anything. We had to get it out of them that there was something going on with it. And so after we did that, obviously we're not real happy about having to necessarily drag it out of him that they were having trouble with him. We get that he's an adult and he's capable of making his own decisions. However, we're there, and we're the ones that make it so he's capable of making his decisions. He wouldn't even be mobile at all at this point. He might not even be alive if it wasn't for us. The man was on a fast decline at the time, and there was no one around to take care of him at all. And we came in and took over and have kept up the house and have made sure that he gets a nice healthy meal every night, and that he's taking vitamins, and that his oxygen is where it's supposed to be. He's got people looking out for him. He wouldn't be here right now. This is 4 years now that we've been doing this. He wouldn't be here. He'd have been long gone by now. And so, yeah, we're the ones here that need to know what's going on. So I go over and I look at the machine, and it's clear within a second that there's something wrong. That this thing is not put together right. It's first of all, they got tape going on. What the hell is tape doing here? This is a precision instrument that is regularly calibrated. There's no tape involved. You just put the thing together, and if it doesn't go together that way, you're putting it together wrong. These are professionals. This is the healthcare industry. These are people. There's a damn breathing specialist, a breath specialist. What the hell did they call her? I didn't even know. We haven't met her. We don't know who she is. How is she a specialist if she doesn't even know how a CPAP machine works? How one goes together? It's just a basic standard unit. I figured it out in 2 seconds of looking at the thing. Initially, years ago, looking at the thing going, oh, well, this is how this thing works. What the hell's the problem with the lady who's supposed to be a professional? Are you kidding me with this? Oh, my God. It's just unbelievable. It's medical... It's bordering on malpractice. It's medical ridiculous is what it is, and I have to reiterate to you to be an advocate for those in medical situations around you. Step up for them and stick your nose into what they're doing, because they haven't got a damn clue. They just don't. I've just seen it too many times in my life. I've watched it from different medical procedure to different operating room to different birthing room all throughout my life the last 52 years as of right now, as of today, the last 52 years. And no, I've just seen it too many times. I've seen these fools overlook the obvious, overlook what they should be doing. It's like, I don't know how many times I've heard one of them say, oh yeah, like the day nurse say, yeah, I'm not here in the night, and so I don't know what's going on, and I don't know what they do with these machines at night, and I don't know what this is, and I don't know what that is, and it's just not really my job. The hell it isn't. It is your job. That's exactly what your job is. Your job is to help these people. And I'm sorry, but this is a physical rehabilitation center, and that old man is one of all the old men in there. It's all old men. Every single one of us is an old man, laying in a bed, propped up on a machine. One or more breathing machines, one or more canes or walkers, or these should be nothing new, and these are not new people, and the whole thing is just highly frustrating and sickening. It really is. I have to tell you, just you have to be an advocate for yourself and for others when it comes to these offices, when it comes to these medical offices, when it comes to these doctors, when it comes to these hospitals. You just have to. Real quick, we're coming close to running out of time. We have maybe 5 or 6 minutes left here to go over a couple of things. And the one that I thought would be kind of fun to do for sure. There's a couple of things up here that might be kind of fun to poke a little fun at and talk about. But this first one here, the link's up there, towardanarchy.com. 2507 is the show number. And the first link there under the Anarchist audit is it's a therapist of 30 years who's pointing out 6 common mistakes that couples make early in their relationship, and the happiest couples don't make these mistakes. And so it's an interesting claim. And so then the anarchist of 40-ish years and happily married for 30 years is going to audit the claim a little bit. I thought we'd just take a look at it together, and I glanced at it, but I didn't look hard. I just can say, is this even going to be reasonable to should we talk about this at all? And why not? The happiest couples avoid 6 common mistakes early in a relationship, says therapist with 30 years of experience. I've been married longer than you've been experienced, so let's see. That was the idea. In relationships, no action is too small. Every little change you make matters. Therapist of over 30 years of experience has seen partners repeat many of the same mistakes unknowingly. And that these unhelpful patterns started early on in the relationship, but don't be concerned. Here's 6 common tendencies I am skipping over a lot. I'm a pro at this, in case you can't tell. Number 1, winging it. Most people are winging it, and so you don't wing it in a relationship. I agree, you don't wing it. You do it. You work it. The relationship is the work. The work is the relationship. There's no separating them. That's what I just started to say about the nurse. What are you talking about? Your job as a nurse. Take care of these people. You don't just sit there and say something stupid like, I don't know what these night machines are. I don't work at the night. Yeah, he's here during the day, too. He still needs to breathe during the day, too. Let's see. While we educate ourselves as professionals and parents, we don't realize we need a good partner and that we don't know how to deal with conflict effectively. We become a good listener to build and repair, continually invest in staying connected. That's fantastic advice. Let's see. Holding your partner responsible for your happiness and well-being. Amen, brother. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir there. If you are not happy with yourself, if you are not happy with your life, what you will end up with is you will be an old man in a home, old woman in a home without a friend, without a lover, and without any confidence in your own ability to just sit with yourself for 5 minutes without going insane. That's what you'll be. You have got to learn to live with yourself. You have to learn to be happy with yourself and keep yourself happy before you find happiness with a partner. And you better work on your happiness together from that point on. You can still keep your thing. You don't have to change. If they're trying to change you, there may be something wrong with the relationship. These so far so good. Let's see. What do they say, though, actually? A fulfilling relationship where love keeps growing begins with each person understands that their happiness and fulfillment belongs in their own hands. You betcha. There's a lot more on this. That's why the links are there. Let's see. Number 3, viewing conflict as a bad sign. They view conflict as a bad sign. They don't want to deal with issues. These are amateur young couples making regular mistakes that couples do early in their relationships. Conflict is not a bad sign necessarily. Conflict is what it is. Conflict needs to be resolved. Conflict has to be dealt with in order for it to be resolved, and if it's not, it festers, it creates gaps, it creates division, and it will create problems in the future. So trying to minimize conflict for the sake of minimizing conflict it's not going to work for you. Let's see, what do they say? One of the most overlooked mistakes young couples make stem from the belief that a good relationship should be smooth sailing. My wife and I have had 2 arguments in our lives where it was anything more than just like a huff and wander off and everything is perfectly fine later. We had 2 sort of blowout arguments. One was early in our relationship when there was when it needed to be understood whose position was what in this relationship, and that I'm not trying to dominate you, and I'll be damn sure that you're not going to dominate me. That was that argument. And then we had one not so many years ago, the last time somebody made me stick a gun in their face, and that was just because she just panics. She does a mother thing, and reasonably, rightfully so. That's her position. But she's always supposed to back my play, and so that became an argument right there. You need to understand. We've been married nearly 30 years. We have all these kids. We have all this everything that we've been through. We've done it together. You know who I am. You need to back my play. If I have to stick my gun in somebody's face, then realize that I had to stick my gun in somebody's face, and I did. I absolutely did, and I was justified in doing so. And the state of Kansas and Shawnee County can kiss my ass for trying to arrest me for defending myself. Same with the state of Colorado. Every time, it's just ridiculous. I wear a gun openly. If you challenge me openly, you're stupid and you should deserve to get shot. I don't say you should get shot. You should deserve to get shot. Number 4, trying to change your partner. Man, that says it. I'm not even going to read anymore. I already hit it, right? I hit it in part of 3. It's basically the same thing in 3. 5, losing the priority. What do they mean by that? In the beginning, it's easy to cherish our partners by making sure our mate feels like the most important other person. No, that thing should grow. That should be even more so at this point in the relationship, like the relationship between me and my wife. She's my queen. She's everything. And I let her know that all the time. Absolutely. And she doesn't rule over me. I'm a king. We rule together. I don't rule over her. More of that coming up. We got just about a minute and a half. In fact, Jack Kammer, 2 words, not Jack Hammer, is coming up at the top of the hour, and he flips the script on me. I was going to interview him, talk to him about his 40 years of work in broadcasting and dealing with men in the nanny state and overly protective women and finding a voice for men. We didn't talk about that. He decided that he wanted to interview me. He wanted to talk to me about anarchy. He wanted to know what he wanted to find out as much as he could in that 57 minutes and 30 seconds or so that we talk. As much as he could about anarchy and how much of it he could incorporate into his already existing ideologies and plans of attack and conversations and everything else that he's working on. So it was really fantastic. And one of the things we talk about is relationships. We talk about children. We talk about the potential of government and states under anarchy. Some of it you've heard before if you've been listening to me. Some of it you have not heard before and you need to hear. It's a really great conversation, and it's coming right up. What was number 5? Losing the priority. Number 6 was thinking small. Let's see. It's important to take care of ourselves, invest in our own happiness, look for ways that you as an individual and a couple can make the world better, add a dimension of strength and fulfillment. That's an interesting thing. I don't know that that's necessarily. I think that it's nice to be altruistic, but I don't know that it's the be-all, end-all, or that it'll save your relationship. But I couldn't help but make your relationship maybe a bit stronger, I would hope. My guest, Jack Kammer, is coming up next. It's a special edition of Ask the Anarchist, and I will answer here on Toward Anarchy. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy. You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. The air is unfit to breathe. Our food is unfit to eat. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
Men and male toxicity and just trying to find that friendly space for the man because we're always told we're toxic and we're evil and we're just we just can't seem to do anything right. And of course the world would be better if it were run by women and just so many little simple things that we kind of take for granted. You've actually been talking about these things, Jack. Is it Kammer or Kamer?
Just like Hammer.
Hammer, okay, perfect. All right. Yeah. Jack Kammer, malefriendlymedia.com is his website. And, of course, up there at towardanarchy.com, we'll have all the links and everything for you, as always. Show 2507, if I remember correctly. What a year. My God, there was another plane crash. There's another couple of planes hitting each other somewhere. It's just amazing. This year has just been banner for everybody. Jack, when you reached out and across the Podmatch system, I'm such a huge fan of the Podmatch system. I've been using it for a few years now, and I've just had some amazing conversations with people. And so when you reached out and wanted to talk, I wanted to talk. I wanted to have the conversation. So really, thank you for taking the time to come and hang out. And if you would, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what 40 years of talking about men's issues, has kind of ended you up here.
Hey, listen, I will be glad to do that in just a second. I do want to say that when I first pitched you on Podmatch to be a guest on your show, I wanted to talk about the shortcomings of feminism, the failings of feminism, the mistakes feminism has made, how it's created some very bad problems that it probably didn't intend to, but then again, it probably didn't care about. But since reading up on you and what you're about, I'm thinking that I would love for you to sort of give me an education on the political philosophy of anarchy.
All right.
Because it's pretty clear to me that the current form of government we're operating under is not doing a very good job at dealing with the issues that I care a lot about, namely the social issues of men and boys and the balance of power or the imbalance of power between men and women. So it's not likely that I'm going to end this conversation as a card-carrying anarchist. And of course, I know that anarchists don't carry cards. But I do want to get some seeds of wisdom from you about what anarchy really is about. And I know that that's going to involve you having to unpack and debunk a lot of what people like me think anarchy means that it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't mean chaos, as you've pointed out. It's just a different way of getting things to go the right way among groups of people. And that's really the problem that I'm facing right now with trying to get the government to pay attention to what's really going on with men and boys. And it just does not seem interested. I think it's probably got something to do with the fact that the current government system is very hierarchical. It's very traditionally male, and men just don't want to talk about their problems. Okay, so that's what I would like to accomplish here on this podcast. All right, great. So 40 years it's actually 42, I think. Yeah, I started, or maybe even 43. In 1982, I got the idea to do a radio show. I could tell you the precipitating event if you want to know. But I went to a college radio station north of Baltimore and said, I'd like to do a radio show about what's really going on with men. Not the idea that it's a man's world, men have all the power, but what's really going on with men. Because I had seen some pretty strong evidence that it's not really a man's world in many ways. They went for it. I had to do, a pilot show, but they went for it. And I got to do a radio show once a week in the evening from 1983 to 89. There was a little lag in there when I sort of ran out of steam, but I came back and stopped doing it in 89. Tried to get it onto some commercial stations, but I just couldn't. I spoke to the president of a very popular talk radio station in Baltimore. He really liked it. He wanted to put me on the air, but his sales manager said, forget it. Nobody would buy this show. There will be no ads on this show. Why? Because advertisers are afraid that it will make women mad. Just another example of the ways in which women have a lot of power in ways that we don't typically think of. So in doing this radio show once a week from 83 to 89, it became very clear quickly that there were serious social problems involved in what's really going on with men and women, especially the under-recognized, unattended to issues of men and boys, especially at the bottom rungs of our social hierarchy. Marginalized men are really, I like to say, well, I don't like to say, but what I say is they get a double whammy. I live in Baltimore. I grew up in Baltimore. I was a probation agent in Baltimore. I was a jail guard in Baltimore. It's a majority black city. It's pretty stressed. Lost a lot of blue collar jobs not too long ago. And, African American men, especially, I got a soft spot in my heart for them because, in the parole and probation office, I got to work with them and I really felt their pain, and they do have a lot of pain and they're trying to do right and they can't catch a break. So, that's my mission to try to get the government, well, maybe it shouldn't be the government, the media, and just good, common, ordinary people, including good, common, ordinary women, to recognize how they can contribute to making things better. And I include, good, common, ordinary women in this because it wasn't just the Ku Klux Klan in the Old South that really didn't mind that blacks were kept separate, because that way they go to those crummy schools and my kids get to go to these good schools. You know, they didn't have to be rabid racists, but just sort of, you know, and sort of default racists to benefit from racism. And a lot of women don't even recognize how they benefit from sexism against men, but they do. And, you know, part of my mission is to ask women to please, you know, can you open up your hearts a little bit here? And instead of just thinking about what you don't have and men do have, could you think of it the other way around? What do you have that men don't have? And could that serve as the basis for some negotiation, some give and take, some swap, some health and balance and synergy between men and women, both of whom feel powerful and fulfilled, and get together and make things even better for everybody, including our kids. That's my mission.
I think it sounds like a very similar mission. I'm on something of a similar mission to empower individuals, not necessarily any particular sex, but I do definitely speak to men. That's definitely the core audience. I think that there's a lack of women in anarchy, but we change that a little bit every day as we find people like yourself, really, that we can talk to, that we can find these common ground conversations, because I don't know if the average man or woman has the vocabulary, to be able to have the conversation. They've been told so much, and they have preconceived notions about what men are supposed to be and what our place in society is. Both the men and the women do, and there's been a long road of trying to break that. The stigmas that come with it. I guess we've probably been fighting this particular battle since my entire lifetime. I'll be 52 in 2 days. So I think it seems like something that came out of the 70s, and something that I've had to grow up with my whole life. Is it just every time I turn around, we're being told that men are bad, and that what men do is bad, and that it has to be tempered with a female presence. And I believe that in relationships. I think that's absolutely true in relationships. I think that children are better raised when you have the dynamic of the mother and the father, and in particular the father who is aware of is capable of being a bad person, but isn't, because they know that they want to be a good person. There's no, the harmless person is a toothless person, but a person who can cause great harm, who restrains themselves purposely, is somebody to be respected, somebody to understand a little bit from. And I think that we have better relationships in our families when we have strong men and strong women, and that they work together as a team. I think my own family's proof of it. I have a great little family, and I'm married 30 years this year, and 3 kids, and they're all amazing, wonderful. Never had to put up with that stuff where you go to the store and you see the kid throwing a fit in the middle of the store and having to tell them, I'll take you outside. I've never had one of those. Never had them. You see the TikTok videos with the mother holding the phone there, and the kid sitting there screaming and crying, you took away my phone, and why did you do that? I never even had the problem to have to take away the phone. So
do you have a quick phrase you can give about your philosophy of being a father?
Actually, it's kind of interesting, because it came to me the other day. I don't have a lot of rules, but I have expectations. And the expectations are easier to meet. They're more like goals than dictates, you know? There's very few rules. The rules are pretty simple, and they're anarchist rules. They're life rules. Keep your hands to yourself, keep your hands off other people's stuff. And it about sums it up. From there, we can work on everything else. We can work on the minutia of everything that comes between you and someone else, you and their property. And I think we've done really well with that. I think my children understand that as a base starting point, and that stems everything that stems from there is about their happiness in relation to treating other people right, not taking advantage of other people, not destroying them, destroying their stuff for no reason, or even if you have a reason, at least make it a really good one.
The idea of setting expectations for your kids really sounds brilliant as a core strategy for raising kids. And maybe the reason it's working well is because an expectation is sort of a goal for the kid, and he wants to please his parents. If his parents are decent to him, he wants to please his parents, and so meeting the expectation is almost a game. It's almost a way to show how good he is, how great he is, how wonderful he is, how
No,
much
I
he
think
loves.
that's right, and it's been the same with the public education system for me. I've always told them that it's there, you use it, you go, you got to get up, you got to go every day, you got to learn the stuff until it's not working for you anymore, and then that's fine if you don't want to do that anymore, but you got to do something else. You don't get to just sit around. You don't just get to be lazy. So I would take advantage of it. I would look at it as a goal, as accomplishing a goal, investing in yourself in the future, and just accomplishing a goal and learning it as one of the many things that we do in life that we don't necessarily want to get up and do every day, but that we have to do. And so I think taking that approach with them has let them excel because they seek their happiness through the system and through the education that they're getting, and they find it because it's there.
Very nice, very nice. You got 3 kids?
Yeah, I have 3 kids. I had 2 well, I have 4 kids. I have one that I had years ago when I was a teenager, and, I guess maybe there's a little bit of a comparison there. You can see the sort of difference of a child that was born, under, circumstances versus, a loving family unit that has stayed together from beginning to, until now, at least
Yeah,
anyway. Yeah, I think
yeah.
there's a very obvious difference in them. A wonderful, my oldest daughter, wonderful, amazing, has grown up very well, and despite some challenges and not having a proper, at least her own proper father present for, I don't know, 18 years or something like that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that was one of my things was, when my daughter and her mother went away at that young age, uh, I it hit me as, that's just more of the same thing. My mother was a single mother, and I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, and well, wait, I'm just perpetuating this same stereotype, this, just sending him down the same path, and kind of decided at that point that if I was going to do anything more with family, that I was going to have a relationship first and build on that.
So, in the absence of a father in your home, in your daily life, how did you learn your seemingly very smart, effective, and insightful philosophy of being a father?
Well, a lot of credit to mom and grandma. Really just good people, and with their heads on their shoulders, hard workers, and set me right. I was raised in a Christian tradition, grew up in the church. Not a Christian now, but I have that base. The goodness, the kindness, the Jesus teachings, all these wonderful things that really do come out of the Bible, and I there was some good men around me over the years. My mother dated a few good men, but then within the church, by the time I was 12, I met Kenton Riggs, and he was a seventh member seventh official card-carrying member of the Libertarian Party. I was born in Colorado, and so the Libertarian Party was formed the year before I was born in Colorado, and then as I grew up in and around the city, that those ideas were everywhere, and up until I don't know, last 10, 15 years or so, Colorado had been a pretty man-friendly state, maybe you might say, and it's sort of drifted the way of this sort of liberal left, kind of weenie men and weak and yeah. But when I was growing up, there was all about libertarianism and anarchy, and so I grew up with a guy whose philosophy came directly out of the anarchists who started the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party, that's toward anarchy. The toward anarchy is literally a phrase coined by David F. Nolan, the creator of the Libertarian Party, when describing what their goal as a party should be. It should be toward anarchy, the maximum point of freedom and liberty.
So have you heard that? Have you heard it said, sort of as a quip, but with a lot of, I think, truth to it, that the Democrats are the mommy party and the Republicans are the daddy party? Have you heard that?
Yeah, I've heard that, and I get it on a very superficial level. But I'm one of those people who's not fooled by the idea that the right is more authoritarian, more daddy than the left. I think historically, I think you can look and say that it's actually the left that is much more authoritarian than the right. I think the right has its values and its Christian ideals and things like that it has struggled to put forward and put and keep in its place for itself and for themselves, in terms of being of having it pushed through the political system onto the people. They've struggled with that in terms of authoritarianism, but I think in true terms of authoritarianism, the left is the daddy, more so than, and by that I mean the stern, you will do this, I'm the dad, I'm smarter than you, I know what I'm talking about, I'm not being authoritarian, I'm not being directive or dictative to you, I'm just telling you I'm smarter than you, I know how to do it, the way I do it is the best way to do it. And I think that's the left's authoritarianism. And I think that the smarter someone is on the left, the more likely they are to be authoritarian, and the less likely they are to even know they're authoritarian.
Wow.
And I think the science is starting to bear that out, actually.
The science, the political science, the understanding of the political psychology of the parties?
I think so. There was something I saw not too long ago that was an in-depth study on the very idea that the left was considerably more authoritarian and just didn't realize it. And I already felt that way about it. And it was just in the last few months that I saw it was some scientific paper or something. So I know they're looking at the idea. I'm not the only person out there that thinks it.
Well, come to think of it, I do recall now, I think it was a peer-reviewed study. I think it was a scientific study. Might have been just an analysis, an armchair analysis. But I do think I recall reading that women in the Democratic Party especially are very authoritarian. Believe the woman.
Yeah.
Right? That kind of thing.
And not particularly smart. It's kind of
fierce,
scary.
But fierce.
It's fierce, but yeah, right. Like AOC, she's a really good example of that. She is not a smart woman, and she should not be walking around talking about other people's level of intelligence like she was about Elon Musk the other day. Ooh boy, just her talking about someone not being smart was not smart. It was just
so if we have in the political realm, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans that assume the mantle of each, there's a mommy and a daddy in our government structure. Where would libertarianism and or anarchy be? What relative would that be?
So It's really a straight line. You get all of these, even David F. Nolan with the Nolan chart, and that's the world's smallest political quiz that the libertarians give out. If you ever look it up, it's a really famous thing. It's the world's smallest political quiz. It's like 3 questions or something like that, and it's what the libertarians put out. It's based on Nolan's own ideas, and they turned the little graphic on its side, and so it doesn't work as well anymore, because if you look at the Libertarian Party, if you go look at different parties, versions of the Libertarian Party around the states, you'll see the Toward Anarchy in the logos. It doesn't say it doesn't have the Anarchy A, but what is there is that arrow that points over. In so many of them, that's the Toward Anarchy part. He said our goal should be toward anarchy, and the logo of the party should be the Anarchy A with an arrow pointing towards that point on the chart that is the maximum point of economic and personal freedom. And so this is all these, points in space, and 3 dimensions, and 6 dimensions, and 7 dimensions if you want to travel through wormholes to try to figure out what politics is. But really, it's a straight line. Slavery, anarchy, and everything in between is some version of a lesser version of socialism. So libertarianism, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, they're all on this line somewhere. You could say the left, the Republicans are closer to the Democrats are closer to the slavery, and then maybe the Republicans, and then the libertarians, and then you get over here to anarchy, total freedom. And so that's the way I look at it. It's a straight line. They're just varying degrees of socialism. And the worst part of the Libertarian Party is that you have all these politically disenfranchised people who have no success over here with this party, no success over here with this party. So they're completely disenfranchised. Nothing works. They're angry with their party. They're fed up. And then they come together to form another party, and they're just already this much further apart. They're already disenfranchised. The battles within the Libertarian Party are ridiculous.
Are they different in kind from the battles inside the Republican Party and inside the Democratic Party?
Not at all. No, it's literally the same battles. They're just having them internally instead of across the aisle. Okay. That's why they'll never be effective. And they lost their anarchist roots. If you ask any libertarian today, ask the I don't know who they just changed the party chair. She just walked away, and somebody else just got voted in. But ask any of them. I'd be hard pressed. They couldn't tell you the story I just told you about David F. Nolan. They couldn't tell you about the pre-party exchanges of information in newsletters where he mentioned that, where he talked about, where all of them talked about that the Libertarian Party is an anarchist party. They've lost their anarchist roots.
They don't have the institutional history and institutional knowledge of the
no, and no, they really don't. It's actually interesting because I read that one particular newsletter that they exchanged, because I went through Ken's personal files as I was growing up over the years, and I was able to read a lot of tracts and flyers and things that he'd been collecting since the 70s to do with.
When you say Ken, is this Ken Nolan?
No, Ken Riggs. Ken Riggs is his name. He died here a couple of years back. So he's not with us anymore.
Was he was
a geologist. Went to the same church that my grandmother and I started going to when I was about 11 years old. It's Trinity United Methodist Church in downtown Denver. Just one of these huge, beautiful Gothic churches, and just an amazing place and amazing people in there, including Ken himself. And so I got to read through a lot of his papers, and some of the things he had were those early exchanges, and those early newsletters and things don't exist. They're just not out there. I wish I knew where his was. I assume that either Mises.org or somebody like that is going to end up with his library. He had a decent library.
Okay. So, Michael, you have an awareness of the kinds of things that I am aware of, that feminism doesn't know the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help it God. Doesn't even if it knows the truth, it doesn't always tell the truth.
Sure.
It's a political lobby, like any big special interest, whether it's big pharma or the National Rifle Association or the American Medical Association. I call it big pharma.
Mm.
How would an anarchist, maybe this is a contradiction in terms, is there any such thing as an anarchist state?
Well, okay, so that's something that I believe it's theoretically possible because at the core of anarchy, we don't have a problem with hierarchies. I have no problem with hierarchies. I have no problem submitting to an authority if I accept the authority. It's all about the voluntary participation in it. So theoretically, you could have supposedly our state is supposed to be a voluntary system, supposedly, but it's not because we're all forced to pay for it. So it's not really a voluntary system. But theoretically, yeah, theoretically, everybody could chip in. I think obviously it has to be on a smaller scale. I think that that on a larger scale, anarchy doesn't work. I don't think that the greater population of the world will ever accept the idea of anarchy. I think it's definitely an individual path. And it's one of those paths like the Christian path itself. I have a lot of conversations with Christian anarchists. Just last week's show, everybody's watching it right now. It's really popular. One of my best episodes so far this year. And we have these conversations with the Christians because they get the same bad rap that anarchists do, right? Don't they? They have people running around that call themselves Christians, that call themselves anarchists, that do really bad, stupid things that Christians and anarchists shouldn't do. So we get kind of a bad rap. Having the conversations like that. That's everything that I strive for, and I think that it shows. Um, I think that it works slowly over time. It's just those individual conversations, just one-on-one things. It's that show that light to people. This is my light inside me. I'll show it to you. I don't have to force it off on everybody else. But this is why I'm happy. This is why I'm whole. This is why at the end of the night when I come home, I'm not stressed. I'm a happy guy. All day long, every single day. Not quite deliriously happy, but definitely just happy and content with my life. And I see people who are twisted up in the system, who are playing the political game. There's an underlying unsettling fear and unknown already that exists with humanity, that we all just sort of walk around on having no idea what's coming next. Top that off with authoritarianism and the politics and the insanity that is politics, and what you have is an entire population that is completely unsettled just because of politics. They just can't even go, and they don't even realize it. And a lot of times they don't even realize how pervasive it is, how it just seeps into every single aspect of their lives, especially in America, where we're told that it doesn't, that politics stays out of your life. No.
How would gender issues and male-female relationships and the power balance between men and women and the cooperation balance between men and women, our families, interactions between the sexes, how would that be different under an anarchist regime?
I don't know that it would be necessarily different. I think that maybe over time it would be, because right now I think we're too close to what we have, and it's going to take a lot of time to to change those ideas, to change those things that are already ingrained in us. Dr. Dean Lloyd, who I talk to every month, he calls it toilet training. That's his thing. We've been toilet trained with these sort of ideas of the state and who we are as people, and what we're supposed to do for the better of society, and how we're supposed to act as men and how we're supposed to act as women. I think it'd take a while to get away from that, because it's been so ingrained in us. I think that when you come out the other side of it, looking at the potential for it, I see a complete everything would be better. It would just be better. Everything would be easier because you wouldn't go into a conversation, every conversation you go into, wondering whether or not this person is politically aligned with you, whether or not this person has the same ideologies as you in terms of religion or what they consider to be moral, because you already have a common ground that you're standing on, and if it's that basic common ground that live and let live. You do you, I'll do me. There's so many little cliches that you can use that fit with the anarchist ideology, because they are about that. Just you just be you. You go do that. You want to do that. You want to dress in a dress. You want to have relationships with people of the same sex. You don't like people of different colors or different races. Fine, it's all fine, but it's how you treat me individually when we weren't together, and I think that's the proof that it can work, because regardless, just in spite of all of this, everything that government has done, everything that it takes from us, everything that it tells us that we have to do, we still have built this amazing, beautiful, free society, generally speaking, with all of these people down here, us, you and I, down here on the ground, that when we're interacting on a daily basis, most of the time, we're not concerned about the color of skin. We're not concerned about who's sleeping with who. We're not concerned with anything other than, am I getting what I want out of this relationship? And am I being am I equitably contributing to it? Is it a mutually beneficial relationship?
That sounds pretty nice.
Yeah, well, it's a fantasy, right? But it's not. It's a bigger fantasy that exists one on one between us all. I see it every day. I'm a comic book shop owner, so I deal with customers every day, just coming in off the street. Sometimes I know them, sometimes I don't. But what I do know is I know that common ground that we have, and that's that they came into the store to find comic books, and I sell comic books. And so we can start out there. We're not concerned about the color of each other's skin. We're not concerned about anything but that comic book right over there and how much it costs and whether or not he can buy it from me.
What do you think of the possibility that one of the main flaws of the parties that you pointed to over here, I'm not sure if our cameras are
Yeah,
mirroring
which,
or not,
yeah.
but you got the Democrats, Republicans, and the Libertarians sort of bunched up on one side, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think of the idea, the possibility that the chief flaw of the system that they have to operate in, or that they choose to operate in, is the power of the squeaky wheel, the power
Okay.
of a small minority of people to sort of take control and demand that it's got to be done our way, because for whatever reason, it's just fair, or because you're an oppressor, or because we've been through some terrible things and you must do it our way. Is the squeaky wheel essentially the problem in screwing things up?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I think that's a very fair way to put it, because we are talking about, while the government it's big and it's powerful, it's not all powerful. And so it really can't control all of us. And so what it can do is it can use society, it can use social pressures, it can use these people that make a lot of noise, and use their noise to attract the attention of somebody who needs to get votes, somebody who needs to get campaign dollars, and they turn political and social opinions, they turn small individual problems into very large socialized problems for everybody.
So what do you think of this possibility that those people, those squeaky wheel people, are very much like children who are throwing a tantrum, and they don't have parents who are strong enough to say, go ahead, hold your breath, turn blue, that's fine. Eventually you'll either breathe or you'll be unconscious and I'll revive you.
Either way, it'll get quiet soon.
Hopefully with yeah. Hopefully I can revive you with no brain damage.
Yeah, right.
Let's hope it doesn't go there. But there are no parents in the house in our dysfunctional American family to say, I hear you, but I am not going to do what you want just because you're so loud.
Yeah.
If you can convince me, that'll be voluntary on my part, right? Sort of anarchist, right? If you can convince me that what you're talking about is the way to go, okay. But you're not going to put a gun to my head or your loud bullhorn to my ear to force me to do what you want to do only because you have 3 million other people who are all promising to vote one way on this issue, and it's going to be against you if you don't do it our way.
Yeah.
Squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
The absence of a strong parent to say, fine, if I get voted out of office, I get voted out of office, but I don't lose my integrity.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very accurate description of what's going on. We have, and it only gets worse. That's why it continues to get worse, right? Because that's a problem that feeds itself. It's a problem that's never solved. When you placate the child, it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't get to the root of why they behave the way they did, and it gives them the impression that when they throw a fit, they can get what they want.
Sort of like stealing power that they don't deserve.
It is. It is very much so. Yeah. Yeah. And I see too many parents give it up. I've watched it happen a lot over the years. The way people parent is really foreign to me. It's a really weird thing to me. They don't treat the children with respect. There's so many of them that they just don't respect the child and let the child learn and grow. I'm friends with Dana Martin, and Dana Martin is she's one of these unlearning children. They get the children to unlearn everything. It's just sort of free range, let them roam. That's it. That's the phrase that they use, the free range children ultimately, and let them roam. And and I've had Lenore Skenazy on the show before, and she's the mother who, I don't know, it's probably been a decade now already. It's been so long. It's one of these ones that lives in the big city, New York, there, and lets her kid, sort of 9 years old, ride the subway to school and stuff, and did this very publicly, and was excoriated for it. Oh, you're a terrible mother and terrible. How dare you let your child out there into the world?
Did social services intervene to try to stop?
Oh God, I'm
doing
sure.
that?
Yeah, the whole story. It's been a long time since I talked to her, but yeah, it was a whole big old thing. I mean, she was all across the national news and everything, and people just trying to destroy her because, oh my God, she let her child go to school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that brings to mind a fun little memory of me and my mother. When I was in kindergarten, I rode the public bus home. Now, this was, in the 50s, the mid 50s. Things weren't, like they are now, but I was pretty proud of myself.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the lesson this mother wants her kid to learn.
No, absolutely.
I can ride the subway at 9 years old. I can handle this. I'm confident. I'm capable. I don't have to be afraid of everything. Yeah, there are fears out there. There are dangers out there, but I'm going to learn how to keep myself safe. I rode the bus home from kindergarten. It wasn't like my mother just, let me stand on the corner and get on the bus. She did for like 3 days follow me home.
Kind of follow you around.
Follow the bus home. she spoke to the bus driver and said, now little Jackie is supposed to get off at this corner. Please make sure he does. Make sure he doesn't space out about this. And that all worked. And I do remember feeling really good and special.
I bet.
I was a kindergarten kid and I was riding the bus by myself.
Yeah. No, and it's a weird thing to me to even think about that because, again, I grew up in Denver and we had a mass transit system and I rode the bus everywhere. I was never worried about being kidnapped or, I was just pay attention to where you're going. Don't talk to strangers. Follow all the basic, simple stuff, and people all around the world get from A to B all day long, every single day, without being accosted by anyone. I think it's a Japanese tradition. I don't know if it's across the entirety of the Japanese people, but they have a thing where it's kind of a rite of passage to sort of send a kid to the store. Here, take the money and go to the store and bring me back what I need. And I know I've seen a number of videos on YouTube where people just sort of there's a little 5-year-old kid just walking down the street. He's been charged with going to the store and picking up the things that the house needs, and it's a thing. It's something they do. There's another one that I sort of seem to remember, those wildlife shows or shows about Africa or something like this. It was something from a long time ago that I saw, and I just remember this little African family, living in the wilds out there, and there's just this little boy, and there's all the family, and all the family's doing everything, but this little boy, he's like 4 or 5 years old, and he's wielding a machete and he's just chopping up the reeds or whatever the hell it is that they're working on, and he's just going to town, man. And he's knocking this stuff out, and I'm like, 5-year-old kid wielding a machete. That's somebody who's not being treated like they're a child. That's somebody who's being respected. That's somebody who's not being raised by a nanny state. that's somebody who's being taught some responsibility and given a chance to prove themselves. And in that case, some danger involved. I mean, Americans have barely any danger in our rites of passage.
Do we even have any rites of passage?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
We lack some culture, don't we? It's probably a little bit of the problem with a diverse culture is that it doesn't have any culture.
Yeah, that used to be the melting pot, and then they changed it to the ideal not being a melting pot where we all melt into a homogeneous molten pot, but the idea became that we became a tossed salad.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you like better?
Well, okay, so it's an interesting question because we've been told that as Americans that we have something in common. We kind of don't, really. Most of us don't. Most of our situations are different from one house to the next, right on the same block, let alone having some weird shared identity. It's fake. It's totally plastic. It's completely invented. There's no heart to it. It's everything. It's just on paper. You don't really have to pay anything more than lip service to it. That is the idea of America, because it is. It's all just on paper. It's all just a theory. Otherwise, we're just people. We're just all a bunch of individuals, and we don't have a lot in common. And that's a good thing, that we should be able to share in our differences and be able to bring true diversity and equity and inclusiveness to our reality, not a manufactured fake thing that's based on some superficial presentation by an individual and not the heart of the individual and the strengths and things that they actually bring. Color is not diverse. Sleeping with men wearing dresses is not diverse. It's divergent, it's different, but it's not diverse. It's not what makes us better people. It's not what makes us a better society. Those things are those differences that we're looking for, those important differences, those cultural things that can actually provide some clarity about ourselves as a people, or some clarity about ourselves as an individual, to help us move forward and to help us move forward together as individuals.
Is there, well, follow the money, right? Is there a lot of money involved in perpetuating this idea of America as, the most wonderful society on earth?
Yeah, I think it's kind of all about money a little bit in a lot of ways. Certainly the political side of it, it's all about money. It's all about either getting the money to continue your politics, or to get paid for being in the politics and doing and providing for your constituents. Time to cash in. Um, yeah, it's there's a lot of money. The central, one of the biggest problems that we have worldwide, but certainly in America, is that central bank, and that controlled money. It's another one of these things that we're told it's bad, and that normal people can't control it, can't use it properly, and that it has to be centralized, it has to be nanny stated, it has to be mommied. You can't use your money that way. We can't let you do that. It's not how money's supposed to be used. And what about this guy over here who didn't have as much money? Well, God damn it. I spent money on an education. I spent years in school, and I spent years working hard, and I made and created what I have. But you're telling me now that all my hard work is meaningless because this guy over here doesn't have something, because he didn't work hard enough, or he didn't have quite the same advantages? And why is it that he didn't have the same advantages in a society, in a place where we're supposed to all have this sort of level playing field? Well, that's where the level playing field is a lie. The only level playing field is that we as individuals, barring sort of mental or physical inability, are allowed to do whatever the hell we want to do from day to day without anybody telling us that we can or can't. And the only thing that should ultimately stop us from doing so is when we violate other people. That's a violation of natural laws. That's where you can continue to do something for a really, really, really long time and get away with it, but eventually it catches up with you because it's a law, and all laws catch up with you eventually. A real law, not one of these commercial code things that they use to rob, cage, or murder you to collect a paycheck for. Those are different.
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
I did watch. I watched about half of it, actually. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. My wife's father fell here, not this last Sunday, but the Sunday before. And he didn't break the hip, but he did crack the top of the femur, just a itty bitty little thing. And so he's in rehab over there, and we're going through this whole thing right now. So yeah, I'm a little disconnected at the moment.
What did you think of the commercials you saw in the Super Bowl? Did you see any?
I actually watched most of them separately. Did I don't know if any of them really stood out to me this year. I enjoyed laughing at a couple of them. The Ben Affleck thing was funny. I think every single other one of them was either Ben Affleck or Matt Damon saying that the other one should have been in their commercial. I think that's about all I got out of it. I really enjoyed the halftime show. I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan. And so I really enjoyed that, and I thought that was hilarious. It's the first halftime show, and how long that wasn't full of Illuminati symbolism, and the thing that upsets everybody is the black guy on stage saying that too many black men are in prison. That's what's gonna get to. Yeah, that's a weird flex, white guy.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole halftime show, but a fella said that, not Lamar. His sidekick said it.
No. Just nobody said that. No. That's me. Just
Oh.
watch. I thought there was a whole bunch of people out there saying that it was a crappy halftime show, that they didn't like it, and most of those are white guys, and most of them you could probably find a racist streak in, because there was nothing wrong with it. Now, I get it if you just don't like the music. If you don't like the music style, okay, I get that. There are a lot of people that just don't like music. That's fine. But that's not what I found. As a musician, as a music guy myself, and somebody I know Kendrick Lamar a little bit. I've heard some of his songs, and of course, over the last year, there's been the whole Kendrick Drake battle thing going on, and we've all been sort of privy to that and hearing some of what's come out of that. And no, I like the music. I think the guy has a great flow. He's got some great lyrics, and uh, I thought he performed extremely well, especially in the era. Not that we've ever not been in this era, but the era of lip sync. Every performance is a lip sync, especially a big thing like that. He didn't lip sync. He was there. He was performing live. He didn't fall for all the Illuminati symbolism and all that's been so
What's the
prevalent. And so,
Illuminati symbolism that's been in Super Bowl shows?
what about it?
Well, yeah, I
You're not
didn't
familiar
even,
with it?
I never
A
heard
lot.
it.
So you didn't break it, did I?
No.
No, I'll say, okay, so this is one of these things that you just have to have spent sort of years looking at the symbology of it. It's about colors, it's about shapes. The triangles, often so much use of triangles, so much demonology, everything is just satanic. And again, I'm not a particularly religious individual of any kind. I don't subscribe to a religion, but I see the symbology, and I get it on some points because we're talking about sort of rock stars and performers, and they've always been really edgy, and you always want to try to push the envelope. But then you have to realize that they're also controlled by these giant record companies, and these giant record companies are owned by rich people, and supposedly all the rich people are in the Illuminati, and they've all been anointed, and all of the black rappers are all Illuminati. They're always doing all of their they've all been anointed because they helped control the black population. These are all theories. I don't know any of this stuff.
What
But
did you think?
it's a lot of the black and white, a lot of black and white checkerboard stuff that appears in a lot of performance things. And you'll see a lot of pillars and a lot of triangles. And these are all very much related directly to the Illuminati, supposedly. I mean, they are definitely symbols, but whether they translate from what these guys over here calling themselves the Illuminati are using these symbols for, the compass and the square and the mason things. That's what a lot of this symbology is. It's directly related to Masons as opposed to Illuminati, I guess. And what the disconnect is that there's these groups that have these symbols, and they use these things to convey messages to each other through their artwork and things. And then there's these people who see these people over here with their symbols, and they imagine what these symbols are and how they can incorporate them or what they might mean to themselves. And then you have all these, coordinators and producers and directors, and all these guys aren't the people that have the vision of the artist. And like the videos that are recorded, these are rarely the artist's vision. There might be just here's the hint. This is the direction we want to go. But then it's up to these other people who are into creating those things, to creating the visuals, to scoring the dances and do that stuff. And you get another influence in there. So there's some point in there where, yes, there's all of this Illuminati stuff over here. Yes, it seeps into pop culture, particularly Black artists, and in large live performances. But how much of it is directly related? How much of it is just imagery? How much of it is we only have squares, circles, and triangles to begin with in our imagery anyway, and straight lines. There's not much more to that. So what is and what isn't? And unfortunately, we are so close to running out of time, and we're like down to the last minute. This is one of these things we're going to have to do another one of these. Please plug your stuff real quick and let the people know where to find you.
It's behind me. Malefriendlymedia.com. That's
awesome.
That's me.
That's the spot.
Great.
You're like me. I just push everybody to the website. Just go to the website. If anything you want to know about me is there, you want to find me, it's there. Malefriendlymedia.com. Jack Kammer. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate that you kind of turned that around on me and interviewed me.
Well, remember, I did do a radio show for 6 years. So I like to ask questions.
That's awesome. I'd love to. If you ever want to do a follow-up or something, you want to chat again.
All right, I'd love to. I really would. You're
Cool.
an amazing character.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Any last thought? Just one.
Just one thought. Can I ask a real quick question?
Okay.
We were talking about symbology in the halftime show. What'd you think of the symbol of the American flag with those fellas in red, white, and blue?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's neat, right? Well, you notice their prison uniforms.
So the idea was that America at base is just imprisoning these guys, rather than it was sort of it wasn't ironic, but it was sort of a subterranean swipe at the American system and what it does to
and then with Sam Jackson there wandering around in the Uncle Sam uniform and everything. Yeah, there was a lot of patriots who were upset. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Well,
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack. It was really great talking to you. Let me